All right.
This is water, by the way. It's nothing on the mat. Actually, it's vinegar water with lemon.
Oh, okay. Okay. Meg's been having me put a little apple cider in mine. Apple cider
Yes.
vinegar with water. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kyle Adams. I'm joined today with Rob Nelson, the owner of the Met. But you may not know, Rob also wears many other hats, and one of them, he actually has a PhD in pastoral counseling. So we'll get to that here in a second. But first, we want to talk about what's going on in downtown Lima and the Met. And I know, Rob, we've all been through a lot of changes. Met has as well. But tell me a little bit about what's going on first at the Met and how you all have adjusted to the times here in these past couple of weeks.
Well, the hard part is just like many other restaurants and service areas, we had to lay a lot of people off because we just don't have the traffic. We have been able to maintain our management staff and do a decent amount of takeout because fortunately, a lot of our loyal and some new customers too that are going to be loyal members in the future have supported us. And so we're keeping the doors open. We're giving food to some needy people, some kids from the city schools, as well as making deliveries to the hospitals, especially because the people on the front lines here, especially in Allen County, they haven't been hit as hard yet, but anxiety is high and people are still wanting to eat. And we're deemed, restaurants are deemed an essential entity because more people spend money eating out than they do at home now. And we're there to provide that for. So we are still open. We're going to continually be open and just under new rules and new things. And there's one of our daughters, Tilly. We're all, as you said, Kyle, we're all doing new things. Our kids still have to do homework. So Tilly is grabbing her notebook there and Els is behind me. So
Yeah.
So we're still open. Our menu items are changing just a little bit. We're trying to figure out what we can do to serve the most people in the most expeditious way without trying to interact with them and keeping our 6 feet.
You know what I didn't do in the beginning when I introduced you? I didn't call you Dr. Robert Nelson because that's what we're going to be talking about here today. And, I mentioned earlier, and you mentioned to me, you have a PhD in philosophy, but it's in pastoral counseling. A lot of what you've done in the past before you opened the Met several years ago, almost a decade ago, you were a therapist. And a lot of what you did is you looked at things from an optimistic point of view rather than a deficit point of view, which a lot of us could be doing right now. We've lost a lot of things in our daily lives. We've lost some of the norms that we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
You were trained to teach people to look at things with an optimistic point of view. How can we do that in this day and age?
Our thoughts cause our feelings. And in a day like today, and in a month like now, and a year like now, it's really easy to go down the path of first, woe is me, woe is my family. Because the reality is there's a lot of people without a job. There's a lot of people who do have a job who's worried about their job. There's a lot of people who have friends and family in healthcare. And we could go down the road of this is bad, this is horrible, this catastrophizing. And so one of the things we could do is try to help people. And I know this is a cliched saying, but it is very important today, is take just the moment, take the hour, don't even take the day, take the hour and just focus on where you're at here. So your mind's not wandering to what happens if I get sick? What happens if Auntie gets sick? I can't see my mom who's in the nursing home. Just try to reframe it of I'm just looking at today. And then if there is a road bump, view that in a larger totality, but in a positive way and not necessarily a negative way.
The anxieties too, they're sky high for a lot of people. And as you mentioned, you have both of your children working at home. I have two small children, 2 and 6 years old at home. And that anxiety level, I feel it. I felt it in the past 2 weeks. It's been sky high, to be completely honest with you. From your point of view, how, I know looking at things with an optimistic point of view, as you just mentioned, but what are some ways that you would cope with these new norms?
Well, I think first what you said, Kyle, makes a lot of sense because it's a trauma. Okay, some
Yeah.
of us, whether we're in Chicago or Seattle or New York, we've experienced grave trauma. For us here locally, we're anticipating a trauma, and how do we get out of that? There are a couple of things. One is try to show some gratitude, be gracious for the people around you, and be gracious that you're in a house, that you have a loved one, that you have a sibling. Be gracious that you still have food on your plate. Hopefully you don't have too much toilet paper, because we don't want people hoarding toilet paper. But show a bit of gratitude, and and just say thank you to people. The other thing is even though we're supposed to practice social distancing, like I know you and I are talking, and we talk in person a lot. Like this is really good. So like if you could Skype, if you could FaceTime, if you could, like this morning we took a walk, and we stopped at someone's house who was elderly, and we waved from their driveway, so we were able to see them. Just doing something like that, and not focusing on me, like, oh, my job's stressful, or oh, I don't have a job. Like that, those things might be true, but there are other people out there. And, Nicole tells me this wonderful thing that she got from Mr. Rogers. Like, there are traumas and accidents everywhere. We're driving on the highway. There's gapers, right? People stop. Like there's no, like I'm going eastbound, the traffic is going westbound is stopped. Eastbound can still be going 70 miles an hour, but we're all stopping. Why? Because most of us are looking at that accident. We're looking at the truck turnover, the car that's crushed. But there are some people who actually look at the paramedics and the firefighters, and then look at them. They're there trying to help them. That's that's a single event with two different perspectives. And so we encourage people, like, focus on the helpers. There's always someone there, even in this period of unknown and anxiety and what some people might say injustice. Well, the world is just not fair. So that's what I would do, and try to keep hope. People who have a hopeful disposition, look at things with an optimistic way of doing things, are more altruistic, and then have a sense of gratitude. They have psychological buffers that will help them through traumatic events. If you have a lot of time at home and you've ever heard about Viktor Frankl, or you could grab the book, The Man's Search for Meaning. Like he gives a perfect example of that, about what happened to people in the Holocaust. And I'm not equating what we're doing to the Holocaust by any means, but the feelings can be similar. That would be a good book for someone to look at. And then after you do that, chapter by chapter, call someone. Call your grandmother. Although if she has a flip phone, call her. If she has a computer, do something on FaceTime. But just make sure you're still interacting with people and seeing and looking them in the eye, even though it's from a distance.
Yeah. So a couple more things here. You've always talked about how the Met is that great third place, right, to build relationships. And obviously we don't have that chance as much as we used to, just in the past 2 weeks, everything's really changed as far as that. But as you've mentioned, focusing on the gratitude, focusing on changing your perspective, like the car accident analogy is just a wonderful analogy, I think. But like, how about the relationships? How can we focus on those relationships more than ever right now?
Well, Kyle, as you mentioned, the Met was built for a number of reasons. And one of them was to be this great third place. That's a Ray Oldenburg saying, like, our first place is our home. Second place is our place of work. And then the third are these other places. Like many of us connect to things larger than ourselves. Like we might, we're in the Buckeye State, right? We have a ton of people who are Buckeye fans who've never been to Ohio State, but they surround themselves around the idea of the state and the football team, and that gives us meaning. Sometimes It's our job. We work for the government, or we work for this great company, and it gives us meaning. And then sometimes we want these other places. So with that being gone, it's a loss for our employees, but for the people in general, it's also a loss, because you've got you got your relationship with yourself, you've got your relationship with others, and then for some of us, you've got a relationship with something greater than ourselves, higher power, a God, whatever you want to call it. And if one of them's off, the others are askew. And so I believe that. So in this day and age, especially when we have extra time, is how can we be gracious and altruistic? Like, let's say you've got your kids at home, you're reading, you're taking some extra time to read with them. You take some extra time to cook meals together, because we're supposed to have social distancing. You could stay in the same home and such with your family. We've had probably the greatest number in terms of quantity and then quality family time in the last week and a half since we've all been shuttered in. Now, Nicole goes to work, and she has an extremely stressful job. But we come home, we cook together, we talk about our days, and during the dinner, like dinner lasts at least an hour and 15 minutes. So, and we're talking about all the things going on. And then, by the way, too, we're also watching a Star Wars marathon. So, because we're able to stream things. So, again, trying to create other little bits of meaning and foster the relationships we have with the people that mean the most to us. And then also trying to help others who might be a little bit disenfranchised, or who might be, I just use that word, disenfranchised, for a myriad of reasons, trying to reach out to them to make sure that they know that, hey, there's still people out here and we still care about them, because it is a very scary and anxious time, and we're still in this unknown period. We haven't hit the peak. We're coming to the peak, and we don't know where that is, and we don't know how we're all going to end up individually on the other side. We will get through this, but until we do, there's still too much unknown for us sometimes to maintain some sanity.
Some great advice, Rob. Yeah, I really appreciate, hearing that. I'm sure everybody else does as well. Anything else that you'd like to add, before things?
The same thing we've always been saying is that we are all in this together. It is a very stressful and anxious time. We don't know what is necessarily on the other side for ourselves or for others. I would just encourage people to call someone every day, FaceTime someone, wave to someone who's elderly. We can still take walks. Like as you're walking and cars are driving by, just wave, because there's so many feelings of social isolation, even in grocery stores that sometimes are way too packed than they should be. People are looking at each other. Just keep the smile, because the negative can only grow into more negativity. And we need to continually plant positive seeds so the rest of us could come out on the other side better. Different, but better.
Very well said. Yeah. Keep up the great work at the Met. I know you and Liz and Kennedy and Lauren are really working hard to keep doing what you're doing and keeping that great food available too. So I appreciate that, and I know everybody else does who's taking part in that as well, Rob.
Well, Kyle, thank you for this opportunity to talk to everyone. It's great to see you.
Great to see you too.
Since we haven't seen each other in a little while, we'll continue doing this, because as we said, the Met's still going. There are other entities in and around Lima that are still going, and we all need to be here for them, supporting them, whether it's the EMS, the hospitals, the nurses, even manufacturing. There's a great story about a friend of ours who gets a lot of shipments from China because he's in the automotive industry, and there's masks available that everyone has a supplier. He has a special supplier, and so he reached out and is going to send a whole ton of masks on his own dime and get it shipped here. So there's great stories there. Like, again, it just depends on how you're going to look at it. It's an individual event, and there's a car accident. Do you want to look at the responders that are helping, or do you want to look at the accident? Let's all choose to look at the responders and continually support them.
Yep. Agreed, Rob. Yep. Thank you so much for your time today, and keep up the good work, and tell your family we all said hi.
All right, Kyle, tell yours he said hi as well.
All right. Thanks, Rob.